Kristyn Decker is the founder and director of an organization called Sound Choices. She is the author of a book called 50 Years in Polygamy: Big Secrets and Little White Lies. Kristyn is also a radio show host. Are polygamists persecuted? Interestingly enough, they are. But where does most of that persecution come from? Yes, I'm the voice behind the camera. Haven't you found that even those who don't stand on a religious premises in polygamy, who claim it's a lifestyle choice, persecute you for having a difference of opinion about what they choose?
I would say true. I haven't personally spoken with people who are still living polygamy, who choose to say, like the new television program on My Five Ways, Brody.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to his family. I don't know them personally. I just disagree. And the reason I disagree, and that I believe they disagree with me, is because I'm still saying it isn't about choice. Those girls wouldn't have married him if they hadn't have been told they had to, just like I did. I don't believe for 1 second that any of them would have married him. And if they hadn't been born into the same group I was born into, they wouldn't have married him, because they wouldn't have been told they had to be a plural wife. So now I believe they're just making the best of that situation. They've fallen in love with him. Good, fine. They love each other. They've built that relationships on sisterhood, which they needed and had to do to survive. And they've got 25 kids together. I don't blame them for wanting to stay together. I don't think they should have to break up either. I really don't. What I feel personally is to say that to talk to children and women and other people and say, hey, this is great, this is our norm, this is what, when I see it in every sense of the word, harmful in the things we were talking about. It's not about equality. It's not about them getting the love that they deserve in a monogamous marriage. It's not about those children getting the attention they need. It's about jealousy and trying to get over it still. They're to some extent religious, because they wouldn't have been saying prayers. There's something religious still there. I guess what I'm getting from the few is that they left the AUB because of things they didn't agree with in there. And I don't know what exactly that was, but I think they have a right to stay together. I just don't think it's right for them to say this is a great lifestyle, because I don't think it is for women, for people.
Well, it still has the subjection of women, and the women don't have the same right.
Right.
The women, if it was a freedom of choice, the women could choose to have another mate. And that will not fly, even if they pretend it has nothing to do with religion.
As I talked with somebody else who knows the family, and they would probably say, well, that's okay with us. This is our agreement. We made an agreement way back then when we believed in it, to be polygamous with more wives than one man. And that's where we still stand. And that's okay with us. This is our choice. This is our lifestyle. We're going to all stay together. Again, to some degree, I hate to even say it, it's still choice. Yeah, they're adults, but what's going to happen if they try to leave? What's going to happen if one of them does decide to have more husbands? She doesn't get that right, to have more husbands and still be part of that family. I imagine there could be a bitter, sad, heartache divorce, and yeah, they could do that. They can. Maybe they don't believe they're going to hell anymore if they do that. But they met the quote, they made their bed, now they must lie in it. That's kind of the feeling I see from this family. This is what we are used to. This is all we know, is polygamy all around us. What else would we do differently?
The dual standard lack of equal rights, and the mandatory sacrifice of your emotions, your feelings, and your desires, and the decreasing time with your husband and lover for the rest of your life doesn't paint a picture of happiness for women. It's illogical.
And again, it's about this man getting all the love and all the attention, and he gets all these wives doting on him, kissing his butt, making his meal, anything they can do to please him, not to rock the boat. he's got to have a heaven other than the stresses of trying to make ends meet and have the stresses of trying to keep them happy, and that goes with that. But he's the one who has the benefit of all the love and all the attention and all the affection, even from the children who are going to run and eat up any teeny little glimpse of 25% of his hour that might be left, or 2 hours after a day, or even less than that, after a whole day of work and wherever he's at and whatever wife he's with. And already I've seen things that aren't true on the program, and this goes back to we're going to show what we want to show, and nothing more and nothing less than that. And I won't elaborate on that just because I don't think it's really important. It's not like I want to pick a family apart who chooses to stay together. That's not what I would advocate if they choose to stay together, if it really is a choice at their point when they could leave. But it's all they know. What kind of choice is that?
Of all the different polygamous groups, and there are very many of them, spread from Canada to Mexico, across the United States, and some out of the United States.
And some independent people who don't even follow any leaders.
Yes.
Quite a few.
There are all of them, and every group has a leader. And every leader teaches its people, its followers, its parishioners, that they are God's mouthpiece on earth, that they are the prophet. Yes, isn't this true?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
They got their word from God that they're God's mouthpiece.
They're the only one.
Prophet.
And yet, they have no concern whatsoever about sending their daughters to be brides to these other groups. I have female relatives in every single polygamous group I know of.
Mm-hmm.
The girls are trafficked into all of them, and yet there seems to be no concern whatsoever to what that does to a little girl's head when she comes out of a group thinking, my uncle is God's mouthpiece on earth, and they're marrying me into the FLDS.
Mm-hmm.
They're marrying me into the cult in Mexico.
Right.
Why?
Right.
That's not God's people. Never mentioned it. Shut up. You're going to go to hell if you don't do this.
Well, you're doing your duty. You're strengthening bloodlines by not intermarrying anymore. People are realizing how damaging it is, and yet they continue to do it. And so it's a sacrifice again on those girls' parts. We're going to use you. We're going to get new blood into our groups, and we'll trade. I'll give you my daughter, and you give me your daughters, and we'll switch around so we can get some new blood for our sons to marry and our girls to marry. We'll do this little trade bit so we can have new blood. And guess what? And therefore, again, breaking down whatever we want to do. It goes further and further and further away from any religion. It's more like, I'm power. This is what pays. This is what's going to give us the most benefit. I mean, it's like kings and queens trading and setting up their daughters and sons. They have to be in royalty. Well, let's keep this going, whatever it takes. And they don't care about the girls. They don't care about what's happening. They're talking about my kingdom. And if it takes me having stronger blood and I get new blood into mine, so what about my daughter who went over there to have blood for them? You know, I get new blood in my group. I get more power in mine. You know, that's the only way I can think of it. It's like, why otherwise would they allow that to happen?
The psychological and emotional damage right there to a little girl and her value to be sent out of what she believes is the only right group on earth.
Mm-hmm.
She believes that her uncle, or whoever it is, whatever group she belongs to, is God's mouthpiece on earth, the only one, and the rest of them are just not as good.
Right.
Because they're all wrong.
Right.
But you're going to go live there for time and all eternity in that group.
Right. I know of one gal who was told all her life that there was no priesthood authority on the earth, that there was absolutely nothing more to do religiously than live polygamy, and that was an independent thinking from people who don't follow any leader. So there wasn't any leader of allegiance, but all of a sudden she's thrown or chosen or set up. I honestly don't know how that works, but all of a sudden she has to participate in this man's life who does have a leader who is the priesthood head, who tells him what, where, when, how, who, and how far they can jump, and how many wives they can and can't have, and assign them to the other wives, and all of a sudden there's the priesthood leader who her husband said, you better follow her else.
Right.
And yeah, it's got to be really traumatic.
Kristyn, I know that you have interviewed a lot of people, talked to a lot of people, and there's a general consensus that the AUB was probably the kindest, most benevolent polygamist group, honestly, as far as how they treated women. Mm-hmm. However, there are serious consequences for leaving polygamy in most of the groups, other than just saying that they're immoral and insane. Please share with us some of the consequences for leaving if you grow up in any of these polygamous groups. What are the consequences?
In all honesty, I have to say a lot of that depends on the specific families. I've known families in the Alray group who care because it's again about that salvation, but they bring their children who've left back home. You're invited to Thanksgiving, you can participate, you can hang out, but we don't want you to talk about what you believe. We don't want you to talk anti-polygamy. We don't want you to talk about why you don't believe in polygamy anymore. We don't want you to influence our children, your little brothers and sisters. And yeah, you're welcome as long as you do that. And those who will comply and hang out with their families and love them and adore them under those circumstances and those rules. And then there's others who are absolutely disowned. I don't want you ever to show up again. I won't call you. I don't want to talk to you. You are a disgrace to the family, especially if you are speaking out against polygamy, if you are saying that there are violations and telling the things you're not supposed to tell that happened, even though we all know they're true. But you don't have to tell the whole world, all these of the abuses and the insanity and the crazy things that have gone on inside the AUB. It goes from one extreme to the other, and it can be violent. It can go to the point of complete abandonment and saying, "Oh yeah, we don't do that. We don't disown our families. We love them no matter what." And I've seen completely opposite. I felt and am on completely opposite with some of my brothers and sisters, or some of my cousins or aunts or uncles. And there's some who I know would give me a hug and still love me, and there's some who would walk a mile to get away from me because they're afraid of the truth. They don't want to hear it. And I know, I understand that. I was there. I didn't want to hear anything that sounded even the slightest bit real. I remember, this is kind of a fun story. I remember when I was in my kitchen one time, and one of the workers, hod carrier for my husband in his business, came in and he started talking about some of the things, research that I have done that I now know is true, where scriptures were, or where teachings were told in Book of Mormon history and so forth. And he was trying to tell me about that. And he said, "No, that's not true, and this and this and this." I was so close-minded and so offended that he would talk that way about our prophets, or about my Uncle Roland, or about whoever it was that he was trying to point out things, truths to me, that I absolutely refused to listen. It was like, "You have an evil spirit, and you're bad, and I'm not going to listen to you." And I actually picked up a frying pan by the end of this time that he was trying to get me to even listen to what he was trying to say, let alone just shut my... you know what? Part of it was intriguing. I mean, there was a part of my soul who said, oh yeah, pay attention. Oh yeah, that sounds true. But oh no, I needed to stay in denial. I needed to, for survival, and to stay with my family and to get to heaven, to not listen and to not hear it. And I picked up the frying pan and I wanted to hit him over the head with it, tell him, "Get out of my house and don't ever come back." And that's a perfect example of where pro-polygamy is right now. There's no way they want to have anything. They don't dare wake up, for heaven's sakes. That's too scary.
And haven't you noticed the immediate hostility when you approach an inconvenient truth?
Oh, immediate hostility.
Immediate hostility, because
you
the
liar,
fear.
That's not true. That didn't happen. I get
the fear of facing
yeah.
an inconvenient truth that's going to send you to hell is so terrifying that the immediate response is anger and attack.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And it's hard to admit. It really is hard to admit that there were times I remember being there too when one of our other cousins left, and I remember hearing some of the things. In fact, she wrote a book, and I started reading her book, and when that was when I was in and needed to stay in my blinded bliss, so I cannot see anything else, and she had this book, and I remember reading it and getting really mad and defensive. I chucked it across the room, and I thought, oh, that's just full of lies. That's just full of lies. And my dad said that too, and that's where I got it from. And then when I left and I picked her book up again, I couldn't find any part in there that I would have even been frustrated with. It was like, now I see both sides. Now I know both sides of the story. And now I'm open to both sides of this story. And now I can hear her and see what she's saying. As long as I was in, I had this belligerent attitude.
And now you know, and can look back and know that she was actually benevolent.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I have compassion for those who are beating me up. It's like I know where they are, because I was there.
And there's a lot of fear in facing an inconvenient truth that's been held over your head with such extreme consequences.
Exactly.
In the religious teachings of our childhood, with so many of the women, me inclusive, I was taught that if I left, I couldn't have my children. That the children belonged to the priesthood, they belonged to the men, the women belonged to the men for time and all eternity, and I could not have my children if I left. I would be separated for time and all eternity from my children, never to have a family, and I would be discarded if I wasn't destroyed to save my soul.
Yeah.
That's what I was taught. And so many of the women, as I go over their stories, faced physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, and all of them together.
All together?
Yes. Desertion, isolation, because they had feelings that they were not allowed to have.
Yeah.
And if polygamy is a lifestyle choice, why isn't it an equal choice instead of a dual standard choice? Why isn't it a choice for men and women without persecution and damnation?
If this was about choice, the pro-families, and if it was literally a lifestyle, then they wouldn't have the fear and the hateful attitude and the accusations and the belligerent feelings that they do. They're still where I was, in fear, all my life, in fear, in constant fear of people on the outside that's just created, going back to that. They haven't prosecuted polygamy in 50 years. I think the only person that ever was fired from a job because he was polygamous was the Potter man in Murray, because he was polygamous, because he's supposed to be upholding the law. They didn't really prosecute him. They said you can't claim you're serving the law when you're breaking the law, which made total sense. The persecution that's gone on since they attempted to rescue these people, the persecution that I've dealt with, that our cousins have dealt with, that many women and people have dealt with, has been by far greater from inside polygamy, from those who are believers, than it ever was. And that was held over us, fear-based coercion. I mean, if it's true God, it's not about fear. Nothing God offers or gives is about fear. True love is not about fear. If it was a choice, going back to what you said, then there would not be that fear and condemnation, and you can't think like you do, and you can't say we're bad, and we can say you bad. And I don't hate them. I don't hate people. I don't want people hating me for my opinion.
All of the polygamous groups that claim or blame Mormonism have upheld in their secret and sometimes open doctrines the doctrine of blood atonement to save one's soul. And it is written in the Journal of Discourses, Volume 4, in many places in Volume 4. This is what we were taught. In some of the cult, it's been carried out.
Mm-hmm.
Ervil the Baron carried it out. He was responsible for the murders of approximately 30 people. You know, the Lafferty brothers carried it out.
Yes.
One of the Lost Boys carried it out, and we can go over that list. It's unnecessary. The point being, you don't have to kill more than one person with blood atonement to make a believer that it could happen to you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the fear is palpable in each and every person that has been raised to believe that our bloodthirsty and terrifying God wants us to be sacrificed to save our own soul. Jesus did not die for our sins. We must die for our own. Mm-hmm. This is a basic pillar of our belief.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are raised like that, and somebody comes along and says, here's an inconvenient truth, the first instinct is to fight because you're afraid. When you're attacked, and you think you're attacked, you don't think it's a benevolent hand reaching out to you. You think it's attack. That now, if I look at that, if I think about that, my destruction is certain. Mm-hmm. And the fear is palpable.
Yeah.
And so when I watch these women on TV lash out emotionally and verbally in fear and angst when someone comes up to talk to them about what could be presented as an inconvenient truth, the angst just goes up. And they get that way before it happens because the fear of the possibility that it may be presented. Not because it was presented, but because there's a door opening that somebody might. Mm-hmm. And there's the panic.
Oh, yeah. I panicked when that guy was trying to tell me a little bit of research truth. It was like, if I wasn't afraid of where I was at, if I hadn't had grown up in fear, if I wasn't so defensive of everything I was told, and if I had been told I had to keep those blinders on and in millions of different ways, if I would have listened and said, oh, really? That's what you think, huh? So, that's what I think. That's what I think. Yeah, oh, really? You read that? Wow, well, I'll think about that. Oh, look at that. No, there's no way. You described it to the T. There's no way I dare look at that. It's because, you know what? There might be some truth in that. And I can't afford to go there.
So
my whole salvation depends on me staying in this narrow-minded, not just my salvation. Now I'm married and I've got kids and I've got sister wife and I've got family and I've got friends and everything I even know, everything I know is right here. So get out of here and leave me alone. I don't dare look at that.
Because you can lose everything you know.
I could lose everything I have.
Your salvation, possibly your life, your family, and everything in between. People don't really understand that. The problem involved is, if we present to the world a lifestyle that says that any segment of the population shouldn't have equal rights, and it's okay, and raise children up to believe that, and call ourselves American, I think we have a problem. Mm-hmm. This is supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, where people are equal and have equal rights. Mm-hmm. And if women don't have the equal rights as other human beings, we're right back to black people don't have the equal rights as other human beings. If we deny equal rights because of gender, color, religion, country, anything, economics, we're taking a segment out of the population and saying it's okay that they don't have equal rights. That's what happened with Germany when Hitler took over. I think we're in trouble. This should not be on television, and I'm really serious.
I think that it's pretty scary. I think it's the lack of education that people in general, it's been going on for a long, long time, for a couple of years now, with this polygamy all being in the media, and both anti and pro-polygamy media, that some guy said, hey, everybody should have the right to live the lifestyle they want to live, whether it's polygamy or blah, blah, blah. And you know what I said to him? I agree with you if it's about true, genuine choice. Here is the difference. And I wrote everything that we've been talking about what is real choice and what is not. If that woman can have other partners and not go to hell for it if she chooses, and of course the constant thing I hear from pro-polygamers, well, I don't choose to. Well, like, what if you did? You know, if you can have, what if you chose to? Can you? No, you go straight to hell. You're going to be damned. You'll be bad. Gay marriages, we come back to that again and again too, because they go on the coattails of that. Right, choice, plus. They don't compare. This man said, well, hey, if I get to have my sexual choice and my preference in marriage, they should too. And that broke my heart because, again, it's because their lack of education. I just said to this man, I wrote, you know what, if you really understood what polygamy was, it would have broken your heart to advocate that, to say it would be okay, because you don't get it. You don't get it. It's like the big castle on the hill where people are being persecuted. I mean, literally, let's say prostituted. And everybody thinks that castle on the hill has money, food, everything's perfect and wonderful because they can't see inside the gates. And they're going, hey, that's what we want in our life. We want that. That looks good. That looks fine. Everything about it looks wonderful. That's what's presented to the public, is everything in there and everything on the outside looks great. But do they really know what's going on inside that house? Do they really know what's going on behind those closed doors? Do they really know what's going on in the hearts of those women and children and men? If they only knew, I think it would break their hearts to condone, to advocate, to accept the things. And that's what we're about. That's what Sound Choice is about. That's what I'm about, is saying, well, go ahead, have your choice, but at least you should have the information. At least you should know. At least you should have background and studies and research.
And if your salvation depends on your choice, it's not a choice, it's coercion.
That's the bottom line.
And if you're going to be threatened, destroyed, sent to hell, beat up, or in any other way persecuted, prosecuted, or destroyed in any way, physically, financially, emotionally, intellectually, it's not a choice, it's coercion. And if you're not willing to give the other person, whoever they are, the equal choice, it's not a choice. It's greed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we've got.
It's power and greed.
Yes, that's what we've got. We've got a power and greed struggle going on here. Mm-hmm. And it's really out of order. Thank you for letting me talk to you about this and explain to the public what goes on inside polygamy concerning the real concepts of persecution. Before we sign off, please tell the listening audience how they can hear your radio show and where to go.
You can go to Blog Talk Radio and put my name in, Kristyn Decker, and you can find me that way. If you want to listen live, we're Wednesday mornings at 10 Mountain Time and 12 Eastern Standard Time. And you can go to kristyn.srbroadcasting.com. And you can go, that's my website for Polygamy Uncensored. Great show. Like Irene said, we interview people from real live situations, real experiences, not cut, not edited, not chopped. The whole thing you can listen to for an hour, and you can listen to those that are back, ones we've done almost 3 months now, and ones that are coming up. So I hope you will. It's really informative. It's Kristyn, Kristyn, .srbroadcasting.com. And then you can see all of the ones that are archived. You can listen to. We've got 2.5, 3 months of these great, heart-wrenching, true stories of polygamy and what people have been through and how they got out and what their lives are like. It's very informative.
Thank you, Kristyn. We're delighted to have you.
Thanks so much.